Welcome to another edition of C-Suite Cafe. And today we're going to talk advertising. In talking advertising, we brought a man seasoned on the job and in the job to the point where you can't discuss modern Nigerian advertising without mentioning him and his name, and by extension, his contributions to what we are practicing today. Whether you're talking about regulation, whether you're talking about the reviews that gave us some milestones of advancement, you must mention his name. I don't want to bore you with a lot of details because he is somebody that is popular, that he agreed to come on this show. We consider it a major privilege. I am talking about no other person than Lolu Akinwunmi, otherwise known as Lolu Akinwunmi, Chairman, Prima Garnet Africa Group. You're welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
You are very busy, and we appreciate the fact that you took out time to join us here to start conversations around business and policy leadership in Nigeria. You have a lot to teach. People have a lot to learn from you. And whether it's one or two nuggets, Nigerians, through this session, we pick one or two lessons that will guide their own growth through you. And we want to get fired up. And to get that done, there are some 1, 2, 3, 4 questions that we want to start with. You respond quickly, maybe with a few explainers, but you are supposed to respond to them very quickly. And I kick off. Family or career? Choose one.
I choose both.
Explain.
Well, one helps the other. If you are going to do well in any chosen career, you need a balanced family relationship. And I'm not even talking of when you are married alone. You cannot do career 24 hours. At some point, you must take a break. You must go back. And the best place to take a break is always with family. So the two work together.
Books or movies? Which one are you going to be found with?
Without any doubt, books. I'm a very, very lazy. I must be the only person in Nigeria who goes into a movie house and he sleeps. But books, I live and eat and drink books. Maybe because also I lecture. I teach at the Pan-Atlantic University. I can't have enough books.
Tiger or lamb? Which one is your management strategy?
But again, both. Because there's a time you need to show your fangs. There's a time when you need to also act as a lamb and show compassion and support and all that. So depending on the situation you face or the situation that you manage, both will come in useful.
Did you land into advertising by accident or conscious design?
I've always asked myself, by the end of my final year in the university, what I wanted to do was to travel and do an MBA. Because MBA was just coming up, very fashionable then. I'm talking of about 1980. But for some reason, after my youth service in then Anambra, the whole idea of MBA left my mind. And I began to wonder, what could I do with a degree in English and all that? And then I met an uncle who worked in Linters, and I sort of fell in love with his stylish the things he said about advertising. And by chance, I met a man who then introduced me to Linters, and the interview period took a whole year. I went through and then I got admitted into Linters in 1982, and the rest of it, as they say, is history. So it wasn't deliberate, actually. It was something that came up because my original plan did not work and so on and so forth.
If you weren't in advertising, what else would you have been doing in terms of career?
Law.
Law?
Yeah, because I also wanted to study law when I finished my O levels. I wanted to go to Ife. Instead of going for A levels, I wanted to do prelim. And then I went to Ife. I went to the school physically, and there must have been over 200,000 forms in the registrar's office. And they said, look for your form if you can find it. And I said, this is like looking for a pin in a haystack. And I couldn't, of course, go through. So I just came back to Ibadan, resumed my A levels at the Ibadan Polytechnic. But I always want, even when I got into Unilag, I thought of cancelling my first year in English because then it was possible, and then registering afresh for law. But by then, I just wanted to finish and leave school and all. But law, definitely. I mean, maybe that's why my wife is a lawyer, and one of my sons is also a lawyer. So I always have been fascinated by law.
Thank you very much for firing us up. And as always, we take some coffee to make sure that our spirit is, as they say, gingered for the challenge of the session. So welcome once again to
Thank
Seafood
you.
Cafe. We are back, and still with us in the studio is the chairman, Prima Garnet Africa, Lolu Akinwunmi. Let's go to the real business of the day. Advertising, many people think is facing some existential challenges. The influx of technology, the invasion of content creators, and the speed with which things happen. Is the profession at risk? What do you think?
Not really, not really. And whatever is happening to advertising is not uncommon. There's a cycle for all industries, for all professions, and advertising is not protected from its own cycle. And basically, I mean, there are many. It's a very good question you asked, by the way. There are many reasons for the disruption, but basically, if you narrow them down, you're really talking about three. I think two of them have to do with technology, and that is number one, digital transformation. I mean, when I joined the industry, technology's role was very limited. In fact, there was virtually no technology beyond shooting commercials. Within the agency, we didn't even use computers at all. Everything was manual. Then a few years later, we began to have agencies that use computers. But now we are talking of digital disruption. It's a major, major issue. And agencies either have to learn to adopt it and adapt to it. Otherwise, the agency has no future, because the partners that we're working with outside of the agencies, the media, the production, all of them have gone digital. In fact, if you look at the digital itself in terms of budgeting, digital has taken about 2/3 of mainstream advertising budgets. And I'm talking of something global. And Nigeria is so big, we can afford to be part of what is going on globally. The second threat is consumer skepticism. And gradually it has come on, which is where perhaps PR has an advantage. Globally and in Nigeria as well, consumers are beginning not to trust advertising because it's paid for. So they don't know, is it true or is it because it's sponsored? Unlike PR, which virtually can run without any element of serious sponsorship. So people don't know. They are trying to find out, is that thing true? Is that thing accurate and all that? That is there. And in actual fact, in places like Europe and North America, it's already a big issue. The third disruption or threat is privacy concern. You've got so much information out there, especially because of data collection.
Yes.
You'll be surprised. You go into a bank and you register and you open an account, And they have collected so much information about you. They are not using it, they are selling it to second and third parties. Suddenly you begin to receive a lot of emails and things from sources that you don't know, because they have sold your identity, your details to them, and they're selling you their own products and all. Because somewhere where you were engaging with the bank, you signed and you didn't read that all the information that I'm giving you today can be used by second and third
You
parties.
can trade with it.
Yeah, and it's huge. It's multi-billion business. It's very huge, and so those are three threats that are facing advertising. In fact, to continue to call it advertising is actually a misnomer. It's more of marketing communication. We've gone well beyond that. We left advertising behind maybe 10, 15 years ago. So these are the relevant and current threats to marketing communication.
Incidentally, this was a question another guest on this show has responded to, even though he came from the PR perspective. Are we looking at a convergence of some of the core marketing functions of advertising, PR, and probably maybe even experiential?
We already have them. And this is part of what I teach in the university. Clients that are savvy, that have a lot of knowledge and large scope, they won't be telling you about advertising strategy, PR strategy. They'll be talking about a global enhanced marketing communication strategy, which then brings us to the whole issue of IMC and all that. And there's a loop. Advertising uses PR uses advertising functions, events, so that there's a more robust way of reaching the target audience. Instead of just saying all we're going to do is reach that consumer for Maltina through advertising, you build something that is more holistic, and inevitably you are using the 3 or 4 or 5 channels of communication to reach them. It's already happening. So it's not something that just going to happen.
So we have a situation whereby a company, a brand, is looking to reach its market. And usually, before now, we have the advertising pitch, the PR pitch, the experiential pitch. So what you're telling us is that we're looking at a fusion whereby a PR agency and an advertising agency will come together, or let me say an otherwise advertising agency will now come together to pitch for the same business, not segments of the same business.
Usually what happens now is that the brief the client or the prospect sends to you, the brief is not even just talking advertising. The brief is more holistic, so you don't even have a choice. So there are two things you can do. You either have a large setup that has an advertising department, PR department, eventing department, digital especially department, and everything functions under. And that's why I said you are no longer running an ad agency. There are so many other, input. I mean, like in Prima Garnet, we have Kotler Ogilvy PR, all of that. The alternative you have, if you don't want to go into such expensive investment, is to use consultants. And they're out there, and you invite them and say, look, we got this brief. You're a digital company. Because there's a digital content in the brief, let's work on it together and all that and stuff. So it's already happening.
Now, bundling it the way Convergence is making possible, is it good for the effectiveness of the business, especially in terms of competence and capacity to deliver quality PR, quality advertising, quality digital, quality experiential? How do you think one agency can be effective in solving these diverse problems of a client or a product?
It's not a problem. Don't forget, you are a very experienced communication practitioner. Everything starts from the strategy. A single strategy can drive everything you are talking about. It's the heartbeat, it's the engine. The various disciplines are just tapping into it. So the strategy is the same. So when you get such a brief, what you want to be fastidious about is to make sure that everything you do is on strat. It's got to be on strategy. It doesn't matter whether it's an ad campaign, whether it's experiential campaign, whether it's PR, whether it's media relations, whether it's digital. Everything is drawing from a single strategy. As long as you keep your strategy in view and you don't deviate and you don't get distracted, then the rest of it is not too bad at all.
You have been in this industry for quite some time. I know that apart from your sojourn as an employee, Prima Garnet has been in existence since
1992.
1992. That's been some while. That's been some time. What is the difference in terms of practice
Then,
and now?
compared to now, you have quite a lot of differences. When I joined Blinters in 1992, number one, we were like 200 people under one roof. And today I still wonder, how did Blinters pay the salaries for 200 people? And we were monolithic. We did many things, including buying the tickets for clients who were traveling. We were involved, we were producing calendars, diaries, gifts. We handled total communication of that era. Everything under the umbrella of an advertising agency. Then things began to evolve. First of all, the media people split. They left the agency and they set up media independence, even though most of the early media independents were set up by agencies. And then all the other ones began to pull out and they began to professionalize. And so those were some of the first changes that happened to the monolithic agencies, the Linters of this world, the OBM, the Rosabel and Co. Then the next stage was that people who didn't even work in ad agencies made an incursion into the business. Digital practitioners, people who own and run digital platforms, many of them didn't work in an agency, but they studied the communication, that's a word I want to use now, architecture, and they found a place and they said, this thing is missing in the architecture. We are going to plug into it. We are going to take advantage to it. And of course, naturally, agencies responded negatively because they saw them as a threat.
Yes.
Just as we saw media independence as a threat. But later on, we began to see that, yeah, we can actually work together. They can enhance our business. We can enhance theirs as well. And so all of these changes, and more changes are still going to come. Look at companies that we used to call financial services, like all of these big global financial services. They started as accounting firms, but they are running ads now. They are running campaigns. They're representing Rolex. They're representing some of the big names. They are having inside their firms writers. They're having creative people. So you follow and see that, oh, this campaign was put together by Arthur Anderson, especially Arthur Anderson. They're representing people like, what's the name of that black golfer?
Tiger Woods?
Tiger Woods. He's not working through any ad agency. And the last campaign, when we worked on the Airtel campaign, the film that we produced, the last film we worked on, was not written by a copyright. It was written by a creative director in a movie. It wasn't written by a copywriter from an agency. It was a bit strange and we saw it as a threat, but it's common now. Big clients want to produce big commercials, TV. They don't get an advertising agency. Agencies now go out and hire creative directors from Hollywood. And it's happening even in Nollywood because their sense of perception is different. Their understanding of creativity is closer to the consumer because they have read them through their films and also all of this, if you put them together, the changes are immense and nobody can stop the changes.
How does it affect regulation? There are regulators for PR, there are regulators for advertising, and then suddenly you see a so-called management consulting firms making incursions into areas otherwise classified as a marketing communication. Where do the regulators of the practice begin and end their functions?
When I was APCON chairman, now ACON, from 2010 to 2015, this was a major challenge, and that was why I worked on the fifth code. We saw ahead, we saw all of this. Normally, APCON would regulate core advertising practitioners, 80% advertising agencies, but we saw what was coming, and I said we've got to enlarge the scope of APCON. So we brought in everybody, including modeling agencies. We brought in production houses. We even created a place for consultants, people who want to practice or who don't want to set up a structure. One person, two people, three people. We gave them associate membership. We created the role for them, and it is still what is happening now. And as a result of that, it was like throwing out a net. It caught more fishes. There are more people now who are working with APCON. One of the things I also wanted to do was to create a platform that would bring in APCON, PR, marketing people. We succeeded with Nigerian Institute of Marketing. We signed an agreement with them when I was APCON chairman. But it would be nice to bring in the PR people, to bring in all the others under a platform. Either you enlarge APCON or you create a different platform, but you can enlarge. There is room within APCON to bring all these people in. But unfortunately, I'm no longer the chairman of APCON, so there's little I can
You
do.
took the fifth code topic straight from me because it's one of the things we wanted to discuss with you today. Let's even know, outside of the core people who follow advertising practice, let's even know what that reform which you led was all about.
I'll tell you, and this will probably surprise you. Just before I was appointed APCON chairman, I was AAAM president for 2 terms. And one of the things, I had time to prepare for the presidency role. And I saw the gaps, I saw the weaknesses. And I used to tell myself that if I had the opportunity, because AAAM is just like a members club, doesn't have the power of regulation that an APCON has. And then the opportunity came. So what I moved to APCON was basically my AAAM agenda, and then I enlarged it. And of course, if you remember, there were a lot of resistance to it. But by and large, I think we must have achieved over 85% of what we set out to do.
That's quite high.
And we wanted, the core objective for us was to professionalize advertising, just like you have medicine, you have law, you have architecture, so that it's not just an all-comers affair. Somebody who has failed in one profession will just come and say, I've become a practitioner. You've got to do certain things to be certified a practitioner and all that. There were resistance, but today a lot of people are complying. Even marketing directors of big firms are taking APCON exams. Otherwise, it's a serious offense if you practice, punishable by fine, and you can even go to jail and all that. So I believe it's helped the profession a whole lot.
So what other things did you deliver in that fifth code? I know that personally you had a lot of issues with some agencies, with some companies in Nigeria. So what core ingredients, what core elements did you want to deliver that met this resistance at the time you did?
We looked at certain areas of our practice. For example, look at film production. And we wanted to enhance and protect Nigerian practitioners, either those who actually produce films or subdivisions like models and artists and people who produce jingles. And we found out that a huge portion of productions in Nigeria were still done abroad, either in South Africa, even in Kenya or UK. I mean, I know that I did quite a few UK productions myself. And we said, well, we're practicing capitalism. We cannot tell people, stop. This is not China. This is not, even Russia has changed. But we put in provisos there. And we studied models all over the world, Brazil. And we said, look, we won't tell you not to use Nigerian models or Nigerian film producers and all, but if you are going to use them to produce your movie, or if you are going to produce your movie outside of Nigeria, these are the conditions. And they were reasonable. I mean, China is doing it, Brazil is doing it, I think Turkey also is doing it and all that. Of course, there was resistance, especially from the multinational clients operating in Nigeria, because as you know, they use global campaigns.
Yes.
They make one campaign and they say this is what's going to run for the whole of Africa. So they felt we were asking them to produce a separate campaign for Nigeria. They felt it would cost them too much money instead of just simply adapting. But we got government support, huge government support, that what we were doing was good, promoting local capacity. And we have lots of local capacity. And government supported us, and I believe that today everybody is compliant. You can't produce a film and just go and put it on DSTV or channels. APCON will come at you and ask why you didn't vet it and bring it to APCON for approval and all that. So to a large extent, then of course we also looked at, most people don't know this, every higher institution that is practicing marketing communication, even fine art and all, the syllables must be accredited by APCON. So we enlarged the scope, we sent more people out, we made relevant changes, and today all the schools are compliant. I should know because I teach in one of the schools, and APCON visits, and they go through our syllabus and what we do with our students and all that. So those are at least two. We've also had issues with NBC, Nigerian Broadcasting Commission,
yes.
And under the immediate past minister, Lai Mohammed, he was going to create a problem. He wanted to make NBC to perform the roles that advertising by law was already performing. And I remember I had a conversation with him and I said, look, if it's not broken, why do you want to fix it? And he could be terribly resistant. So he said, no, we spoke. Not once, not twice. And eventually I said, well, if you want to go through with it, it's okay. I've given you good advice. And some people took him to court about the NBC code, and government lost. The court threw out the NBC code and saw it as duplication already to what APCON was mandated to do, and quite a few other things also that we were able to do.
When you were talking, when you were responding to the last question, you mentioned global campaigns and how agencies and even brands wanted one size fits all. Given your experience then and now, would you say they were wrong or right in terms of those approaches? Are global campaigns even effective in terms of results, in terms of conversion rates? Let's not look at cost alone, cost of production of the campaign itself. Let's look at the cost of conversion, the quantity and quality of conversion. Are global campaigns better, or should we look at
market to market,
other nuances of culture and things and infuse them into our messaging?
The background to that we've got to understand. The background to that is the concept of globalization, which reigned for many years but has now failed. Nobody talks globalization any longer.
Yeah.
It's failed. So what went along, some of the products of globalization is what you are talking about. Coca-Cola makes one campaign for Africa, makes one for Middle East, makes one for North America. It saved them money, even though culturally, I mean, even within Africa, you've got North Africa, you've got Central Africa. Even from our neighbors, Ghana, there are differences.
There are diversities.
But they sort of force this onto consumers, it would work, and it worked in some areas because consumers don't really have choices. And many consumers don't take their cue from the advertising you roll out to them. That's why some of the campaigns come produced for Africa by somebody in London, and you are looking at it and asking yourself, what are they talking
Who are they
about?
talking to?
Who are they talking to? What is the message?
Exactly.
Where is the cultural relevance that you mentioned and all? We understand that. On the other hand, to produce campaigns from market to market is also very expensive. It costs a lot of money. So a client just has to make up its mind, maybe break Africa into English West Africa, French West Africa, Portuguese West Africa, and all that. And you can still go ahead and do that if you can get your messaging right. And again, like I said, a few minutes ago, the strategy is critical. But what kind of film do you want to produce when you use a black South African? And it's quite clear because they look different from us.
Yeah.
They've got this Mongoloid look that Africans, in the West don't have. Do you want to do that? It means that your film does not have that kind of authenticity. There are many things you need to consider at the end of the day. It can't be just budget alone. How about the effectiveness of your communication and all and stuff? So from place to place, the choice really is yours.
Now, between budget and effectiveness, what would be the prime consideration? The cost is critical.
The cost is critical.
But then you are looking at converting somebody from one...
Communicating effectively.
Yes.
If you have the money, the option of creating campaigns for. Don't forget that we didn't have central campaigns many years ago. Omo for Nigeria was Omo, adapted for Omo Ghana, different from Omo in South Africa, different from Omo in Egypt. That's what I got into the industry to meet, and it was effective. I remember we used to go and defend our creatives in London with there's a department in Unilever in London. You would defend it and all that and stuff, because then in Nigeria we were selling Omo, that Omo washes brighter. No, let me use a better example. Look at Bonvita. In Nigeria, we marketed and projected Bonvita as a drink that is good, that you can take and sleep. It helps you to have a good night rest. On the other hand, in some markets, Bonvita was projected as a drink you took in the morning to give you vigor. The same product, the same brand, different positioning. So again, everything still comes down to brand positioning. What are you trying to say based on your cultural understanding of your target audience?
Yes.
Which one is important to them? I don't need, if I want to keep awake and alert in the morning, it's not Bonvita I will take, it will be coffee. That's our culture. But in a place like the UK, a cup of Bonvita would help them jumpstart and kickstart their day. So you can see why so much knowledge is very, very important.
Yes. So, still on this fifth code.
Yes.
To what extent has it helped the industry here? To what extent has it helped the practice of advertising in the Nigerian market?
It has, significantly. One of the things we stopped was to use Nigeria as a dumping ground. And I remember a particular example, a South African agency that had already planned to open shop here without going through the regulatory routes and everything, and we stopped them. We said you can of course operate in Nigeria, but these are the conditions. And if you remember battle also with Ogilvy, one of the things they wanted to do, they wanted to roll back the advantages of 1972 Indigenization decree. Prior to them, they owned their businesses 100%, but under the first charter or so of the Indigenization decree, no foreigner could own majority in any Nigerian advertising agency.
Yes.
So agencies like Lintas, OBM were sold to people like Mueneke and Co. But that wasn't enough for them. Under the fifth code, we said you could own up to a maximum of 24%. 24%. 25 gives you a stronger hand. And that you certainly could not own 51% in any Nigerian agency. Why? We just couldn't open up our market. They would overrun us. We don't have the financial savvy. We don't have the influence. We don't have the clients. If you allow them, call it protectionism if you like, but all countries do protectionism. US protects its farmers. Europe protects its aeroplane industry. China is the biggest protectionist in the world. You've got to protect certain industries, otherwise they will not grow. And that's what we had in mind. And we're happy to see that many of our colleagues took advantage of this. Affiliation has too many negative sides. Many agencies are doing well that are not affiliated. We are not affiliated. Nitro, one of our agencies, is not affiliated. Extreme is not affiliated. Blueboard is not affiliated. They are doing extremely well in this market. One of the things that empowered and helped them, of course, was the reform, was the fifth reform that we put in place.
After the reform, yes, I know that I recall a lot of conversations in the industry pointed to you using that opportunity to fight a personal cause. You were having issues with the Ogilvy's, WPP, and they felt that you took advantage of that fifth code to enhance, to protect your own business. How true was that?
No, it was just coincidence. Even before we had our issues, it was an agenda already. That must have been what? 3-4 years before our relationship, before our trouble with WPP. It's just that I became APCON chairman about the same period. WPP said they wanted to acquire majority in our business, and we said no, you can't do that, because if we allowed them, they would have killed all the efforts we made as Nigerians. They would have brought in foreigners, Indians, British people. They would have kicked all of us out. So we were not, whatever we did was not driven for personal reasons. It was for the industry. I mean, I'll tell you why I'm saying that. When I had one of my meetings in the UK with WPP, as the largest shareholder in Prima Ghana, they offered me about $5 million to buy my shares, but said I will still remain as chairman and all. So I told them, the money you are offering me, if I work hard enough, even if I don't make everything, I'll still make enough of it. And I don't need all of that money anyway, because they thought they would sell that to me as a sweetener. So they were surprised. We had the meeting in WPP in London. When I said, no, what I want is for us to continue to be partners, but we will be the majority partner. We'll work with you. We can take on the whole of Africa together. But that did not appeal to them. Unfortunately, they thought they could go about it alone. And in most markets, they crashed. So what we suggested was an idea they should have accepted if they were not being selfish.
We are still here with Lolu Akinwunmi, Chairman, Prima Garnet Africa. An advertising egghead, you can't afford not to take notice of wherever you are. We're going to be back in a bit. We're back, and with us in the studio is still Lolu Akinwunmi, one of the most knowledgeable people in advertising in Nigeria. He's the chairman, Prima Garnet Africa. Lolu, The industry also has a lot more issues. And now I take you to what they call content production. Even though sometimes I have issues with the interpretation of what content is, but there are people who are content maker on the social media. They create reels on Facebook, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, and they're everywhere. APCON, I'm talking about the advertising regulator, has been talking about bringing these people under their umbrella to regulate their practice. What do you think about this?
Well, ACON has to do that in the sense that many, I won't say most, many content producers operate within the ambit of marketing and marketing communication, which means that they've entered into a field where they have to be regulated. If they were just producing their content for entertainment, I mean, APCON has not said Nollywood people should come, for example. But now, many clients talk to content producers. I mentioned to you, like the movie, the commercial for Airtel. They talk to them, come and write a script for us, come and help us produce this, come and help us do that. If they are not controlled, there are two problems. Number one, they are taking legitimate business away from advertising. Number two, somebody has to be sure that what they are doing is professional. They don't break the rules. There are rules that guide this thing. You are not hitting your competitors. Your message is true, and all that and all that. So I think it's a good idea. Nobody's trying to stop them. It's just trying to make sure that whatever output they come up with meets the standards that APCON has set up for the creative industry. That's it, really.
My concern is how somebody is somewhere in Kaduna, another one is somewhere in Calabar, the other one is somewhere in Jos, another one is somewhere in Enugu, all of them publishing marketing content. Does APCON have the means to reach these people and bring them under the umbrella? What sanctionable means does APCON have to make sure that these people are brought under their regulation?
If you look at the case of APCON versus, I think Facebook or Google, I can't remember.
Yeah,
Facebook. And when it was difficult initially to get Facebook, it's not as difficult as you imagine. The challenges are there. Every content producer within the context of what you're saying is working for a client. Or there's a client involved one way or the other,
yes.
From the understanding we have. If that content producer is based in Calabar or Kafancha or everywhere, he may not be known just working from a laptop or even a phone, a smartphone. APCON, whatever they are working on, the result will come out. It will come out even if it's on social media. And one of the things that APCON is doing now is that it's tightening its spread and hold on social media. And APCON doesn't need to get everybody. APCON just needs to make an example of a few, and others will fall in line. People think the social media is so big, we can go in there and APCON will not notice.
But the social media is so big.
But
and I don't know how they are going to get.
APCON is already investing in software. I mean, look at your job. You're a PR, MR practitioner. If we give you a brief and we say, monitor everything that is being said about Prima Garnet online, there are softwares that do effective monitoring. They will scan and they will say that, Prima Garnet was mentioned 132 times this week. It's not a human thing. And if you want more, because we provide this service. Say the pre-market was mentioned under these conditions. So it's the same software that's going to be used, that the parameters will be set by whoever is developing the software for APCON. I know we were talking about it just before I left APCON. But yes, it's possible. You may not be able to get everything because the social media space is too large. But if it's a prominent campaign, I know friends who have called me who ran campaigns on the social media, and APCON picked it and said, Lolu, can you help us talk to that? I said, I can't do that. You broke the rule. Just go and talk to APCON, plead that you made a mistake. If they ask you to pay a fine, then I can help you talk to them. Maybe instead of 1 million, I can ask them to make you pay 250. That is the way it works. Everything is being done to protect the industry and the practice. But it's possible there are now softwares that show that can monitor and show when regulations are breached.
Can you tell us some of the demands for managing a sustainable business? Those which have worked for you as the managing director, then chairman of a Pre-Margaret Africa Group.
There are so many demands, and it's not even peculiar to just advertising. Depending on how you look at it, if you're already up and running, one of your biggest challenges will be people. Except now that technology is coming in, it's people. You need artists, you need strategists, you need copywriters. You've invested so much in them. They walk into your office and say, sorry, boss, I'm leaving. So you have to scramble again and try to replace them. So people, whatever is it is there, and it can cripple an agency. If more people come in and leave than are coming in, what you're selling is talent. If more talents walk out of the door than come into the agency, then there'll be a problem. And then your commitment to the business as well. Are you investing? Are you training your people? And training is so expensive now. I can tell you, we used to send our people abroad and all that. Very few agencies can do that now. Even internal training. If we invite someone like you to say, come and talk to our people on PR and media relations, you probably tell us to go and bring 1 million or 2 million naira. And the agencies are not making that kind of money for them to have that kind of budget or expenditure. Of course, I had mentioned to you the operating environment. It is hostile to business. Operating environment is hostile. Either you're talking to people in government or outside of government. Every project, every sponsor of a project sees an opportunity to milk the project, to make money. They'll tell you that, you tell them, oh, this thing is going to cost 400 million. They say, when you are sending your invoice, send an invoice for 1.4 billion. You have two choices. To say, I'm ethical, we don't do it. Or to say, well, it is not my money, it is their money. Let me do it. So at least I can make my money. So ethical practices, all of those, everything, a whole lot of things. The cost of maintaining a structure, running generator, running this, running that, everything. The burden and the income coming in does not match all of these expenses. So the stress is too much.
You have been in business for a while. Can you share with us some of the biggest challenges you have faced as somebody running a business, as an entrepreneur, as a leader?
Well, there are a few, but again, one of them is because of our positioning. We started the organization and we were determined to maintain integrity. And I can't even begin to tell you some of our experiences. Because people look at you, and I remember a client once told me that, why don't you just go and start a church, this man, instead of business and all that? Because maybe up to 80% of business discussions with people who are discussing with you while you are talking and trying to talk the business, they are talking of their own pecuniary gain. What is coming to you from all this English that you are talking? And if there is nothing coming to you,
Your English is for nothing.
they lose interest immediately. And it doesn't matter. I'm talking of bank MDs also. We lost a piece of business because the MD wanted to use us to literally steal from the bank. Go and do this job it was a UK job 2 times. And let's say it was going to cost about £200,000. And they tell you to send a bill for £400,000. And if you tell them you don't do it, they say, but this is not your money. You are only helping us to transfer money. So I tell them that in law it's called vicarious liability. If they arrest you, they'll arrest me. And you won't hear from them again. So you're asking yourself, should I stop this my integrity business so that we can pursue our legitimate business? So that is there. Then, there's the risk of staff. And that is why the whole issue of who takes over, what do you call it now?
Succession management.
It's very difficult in Nigeria. At least I can speak for our industry. The person you are targeting, the person you've invested so much in, just walks casually into your office and tells you that, sorry, boss, I have to leave. You say, sit down. Why are you leaving? Are you unhappy? What is the problem? Says, I just want to leave. Then you hear the next day that he has resumed at a bank. What do? The man wants to go ahead with his life. We've had maybe 2 or 3 successful successions in the industry. The Prima Garnet one, Insight to Jimmy Awoshika, then Bluebird. The others have not worked because usually the agencies are run by owner managers and they don't want to relinquish, or if they want to relinquish, they want to relinquish to their children. So that is an issue. And then even partnership is difficult. A major agency came to us and wanted us to merge, and all that. But the conditions were different. It would have caused problem eventually. So all of these business ends are not there. And until we take care of them, it will be difficult for agencies to have sustainable growth.
You were the anchor of the very first attempt to intentionally create a brand out of Nigeria. You handled the Rebranding Nigeria project. Can we discuss Nigeria as a brand? Presently, let's even not look at the past, but presently.
If I was given a brief now to help to rebrand Nigeria, it would be very difficult. Theoretically, it's doable. It's doable. There are platforms you can present Nigeria to the outside world as a tourist nation. You have the choice of a business nation. If you look at most branding activities, they're usually on 1 or 2 of those platforms, or a combination of the 2. Come for business, but while you are here, enjoy yourself as well. But if you look at those platforms and break them down, everything that should make business conducive is wrong here. It takes you forever to register. In Kigali, if you and I want to start a new business at 8 a.m., by 4 p.m. it will be fully registered. You'll have your certificate of incorporation. You can't here. And you won't need to give anybody any money or bribe. If you want to use Nigeria as a destination brand, we have many things going for us. Our entertainment industry is good. We have good restaurants. We have good places, even though we haven't developed the capacity. But you are going on the road and the policeman bangs your car. A whole lot of uncivilized behavior if you are very critical. So we can't compete with other countries that are trying to attract people, but the potentials are there. So it's not a difficult thing to sell to the government that this is what we should do, this is what we should do. In theory, it works. But in practice, the same government is doing things that will negate the effort that you are making. So Nigeria is a tough sell at the moment. It's a tough sell. I'm happy that things like Dirty December is happening. Those are, in quotes, safe areas. But there are areas of more strategic value that Nigeria cannot even talk about. We can't talk about, we can't take advantage of them. And that's really, it's a country where the number 3 man is fighting the senator. It's making very bad news globally. The New York Times, the Washington Post, they are writing headlines on it. Everything is adding up to color the perception about this country. Even though less than 1% of Nigerians are involved with 419 and Yahoo. But if you mention Nigeria, I say, it's a Yahoo destination. We did a research once when the US certified Nigeria a drug nation. You remember?
Yes, I remember.
And from the research, we found out that all of the drugs being consumed in Nigeria were not up to what they were consuming in the Bronx area of New York alone. And yet, the same America was
talking down Nigeria
and certifying us and saying we can't fly to their country. Take South Africa, for example. And I know one of my staff that experienced this. From the airport, on the road, they don't just hijack, they also cause bodily harm. In this place, if you are lucky, if they hijack you, except they are real kidnappers, they're just interested in your wallet, they won't touch your life. In South Africa, they're also violent at the same time. And yes, 6 times more visitors go to South Africa than come to Nigeria, which technically is a safer place.
So what's the problem? Because I also know that the crime rate in Chicago alone is 10 times higher than what happens in Nigeria.
Yeah. It's because
where is the challenge?
Overall, they've been able to manage the perception. We have never in this country had a successful branding exercise. Use it to take out a lot of money and then forget it. Some of the most successful branding efforts take between 5 and 10 years.
For one phase.
Yeah, because you need to, first of all, start from inside out. You need to sensitize the people. You're talking of civic responsibility. You are talking of things people need to, first of all, know. You can't be talking of a serious country, come and invest here, and while we're having a meeting, they take flight 3 or 4 times. We can even manage that. You can buy your generator. But when you are going home, you need police escorts because of crime. Nigeria is not ready for business. We are only lucky because we have some things that the world needs, like our oil and our huge population and our educated people. We probably have some of the youngest people, if you compare global population, maybe more than 60% of Nigerians are young people. Things to sell. But in terms of infrastructure, we are not ready for business. We are not ready for business at all.
We're not ready for business, he said. And it is at this point, we are not letting you go, but we are going to stop today because Lolu Akinwunmi is a friend of the house, and we know that giving him a short notice is only what we need for him to come back and continue to explore his knowledge of business, especially his core niche, advertising. Lolu?
Thank you very much for
We
inviting
were
me.
very glad
Thank you
that you were
very
here.
much.
It's been a fulfilling session with you, and we can't exhaust it even in 3 days. But for now, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us today.
And thank you to the team as well. Thank you.
We have a tradition. Guest that comes in here takes away a bit of us. And at this point, this is what modest gift we have for you as our guest today.
Thank you very much for this gift. I think I'm going to add it to the items I wear when I walk out in the evenings. I like it very much. Thank you, Sweet Cafe. And let me use this opportunity to encourage as many people as possible to watch the programs, to patronize if you're invited to come. They're a very professional outfit, and this is one of the ways that a whole lot of information can be shared, especially with young and growing people, to the betterment of our society. Thank you very much, Ikem, and thank you very much, Sweet Cafe.